What is up, everybody? It is Og here, back with another video, and in today's video we hit level 60 on the gnome mage, and the very first thing that I wanted to do was go ahead and solo SM Cath and Armory and Maraudon. Now, there's two reasons I want to do this. One, I wanted to show that there is not really a gear requirement that you need. You don't need any special gear or anything to jump into that, but I also wanted to give some perspective as to what might be the best boosting starting run. So that's going to be between SM Cath and Armory and Maraudon to figure out what might be best to do as soon as you hit 60. What should you spend your time kind of learning and getting off the bat, things like that. So we're going to be comparing it on various criteria. The first criteria is going to be the learning curve of the run. Second criteria is going to be the RNG influence, then the gear requirement, raw gold per run, the potential drops you could get per run, and then the boosting gold per run that you're going to be making. So we're going to be analyzing footage from those runs as soon as I hit 60, showing some of the different nuances of each. And if you guys want to see the entire videos of those runs, I'm going to be having them up in the top right of each of these videos, and so that you can see the actual run itself and learn how to do it. But for here, we're going to be focused on how to do it easily. Now, if you do want to see these live, I did this live on stream. If you want to see more of these runs live and things like that, definitely check out the stream link down below. Tune into the Twitch, join the Discord to be notified of when I go live and when videos go live, and hit that subscribe button. So let's jump into it. Okay, so let's get started with SM Cath. And so SM Cath is obviously going to be one of the more popular runs that we could do. And so we're going to be looking at the criteria. The very first criteria is going to be the learning curve. And so the learning curve of SM Cath I rated at a 6. And now reason for this is that SM Cath is very, very dependent on the pathing that you take. The pathing that you take is going to limit the frost bolts that you get hit by. It's going to limit the slows that you get hit by. And it's going to limit the overall damage that you take, allowing you to make it to the final phase much easier with a lot more mana. Now, obviously, I don't have much gear here, and so you can see that, as far as mana goes, I'm at 6,300, which is decent because I'm a gnome, but my health is pretty low. And so coming out of the block, we're going to see whether or not it's an issue with that health, but the overall learning curve is really going to be around the run itself and how you kind of maximize that. Now, I do have a full SM Cath guide, and so I'll link that up in the top left, or top right, sorry, so that you guys could see that and run through any kind of individual scenarios that you want with that and kind of learn the actual pool itself. But this is going to be focused on just talking about the overall difficulty of it. RNG influence is going to be a major role in SM Cath. Reason being, frostbolts, arcane slows. Now, the arcane slows can be limited a little bit by the PvP trinket and things like that. And if you're a gnome, you have escape artist, which definitely helps. But overall, the fact that there is a slow that you could get hit by multiple times, you can see a frostbolt coming in right there, or the fact that you can get hit by an arcane slow, which is a 15-second debuff if you don't have anything to get out of it, could be a major issue. Or RNG potentially getting a slow out of a block and you just die right off the bat, which doesn't really happen much when you use the proper strategy, but still something that when you're learning, maybe you come across that. And so I rate the RNG of this run at an 8, which is very high on a template scale. Next is the gear requirement. Gear requirement for SM Cath isn't going to be really high. Obviously, the only kind of issues that you could have is one, running out of mana, which you can mitigate by taking the proper path and not getting hit a ton by the mob, so you don't need to lose a lot of mana in mana shield. And two, coming out of block to make sure that you don't die. And so the only really requirement is having a decent enough mana pool. You're going to get plenty of mana back with the amount of frostbolts you're getting hit by at the end and things like that. And so the gear requirement is going to be pretty low, and it's going to come in at a 2. Overall, obviously, we're doing this with, fresh 60 gear. Next, we have the raw gold per run. The raw gold per run, as you're going to see at the end with the loot appraiser, is 3 gold and 19 silver per run. So if you're dividing that by 5 people, if you have 5 people in the group, you're going to be looking at about 80 silver per run. And you can see there, I just had to use my escape artist because I did get hit by a slow. So RNG, big factor. So 3 gold, 19 silver, 60 silver per run. Pretty low as far as the raw gold. There's other items you can get, but typically you're going to run this on free for all or something like that, or charge less for the run. So 3 gold is a good metric. As far as potential drops are concerned, there's not a ton of really good potential drops out of Cath or Armory. You're limited to pretty much Staff of Jordan. Like there's bow, searing arrows, which you can get, which is about 50 gold, and there's some blues you can get, but there's not any really standout gear like some of the gear you're going to see in Mara. So the overall ranking and rating of the gear comes in at about a 2 for potential drops. Then the last kind of threshold we're going to be looking at is the boosting per run. And so the boosting average on my server, and I'm just going to use my server as a metric to compare the two, is going to be 4 gold per run. So 4 gold per run is going to be pretty decent, but overall you're going to be looking at about, just from Cath itself, about 20 gold per run overall if you have 4 people coming with you. 16 gold per run overall if you have 4 people coming with you because you can't get money from yourself. So that's looking about 64 gold per hour extra on top of any of the raw loot you're having, which is about 60 silver per run if you're splitting it between the 5 people. And so 60 silver times 5 runs an hour. For the first hour, you're looking at about 3 gold from that, and you're looking at around 64 to 80 gold, depending on if you go all the way through the 5 runs per hour and you do 5 runs per group, or if you do 4 runs. So dungeon number 2 we're going to take a look at is Armory. And so Armory is going to be right with Cath. Now, when you're starting to learn off Cath, maybe you're just going to be doing Cath, but Armory is going to be great to include because you can actually do Cath and Armory in one kind of lockout. They actually share the same instance ID, and so they share the same lockout, and so you can do both of these 5 times in an hour. Now, with SM Armory, there's going to be a slight variation as far as difficulty and things like that. And so that's what we're going to be touching on with the Armory. But overall, the mobs are going to be the same level. And so it's going to be the same kind of idea as far as that goes. Gear threshold is probably going to be pretty low, but we're going to jump into that now. So for the learning curve of Armory is a lot easier than SM Cath, because SM Cath, you have to learn the particular path. Armory, you can make a lot of mistakes with the path, and the difficult section of the Armory actually comes at the end when you're going for the final kill. And so with the final kill, there's a big chance for resists and things like that. There's also a chance for you to get some unnecessary hits. There's a chance for interrupts. There's tons of different things that could be going on. And so that's where it gets tough as far as the learning curve goes. But the actual pool itself, the pathing that you're taking, is not difficult at all. And because of that, we're going to put Armory at a 3 for the learning curve. The ending phase is really just going to be kind of a rinse and repeat thing once you get it down. And once you get down the pathing, if you want to include a lip or something like that, it's going to be something you can easily do. And if you're getting paid a decent amount, you can easily include the lips in your runs and things like that. It's not going to kill your gold per hour. RNG influence, we are going to be keeping up at a 6. Now, as I said before, Cath with RNG, you have it the entire time. You could get a Frostbolt, you can get Arcane Slow anywhere. With the RNG for Armory, it really comes down to the resist on Novas. No matter what level, or no matter how much hit you have a 99% chance to hit all the mobs with Frost Nova. However, each of the individual mobs then has a 1% chance to resist, and odds are you're probably going to get some resist. I've had up to like 6 resist. You just never know. There's some RNG with that, and so that adds an element of risk. But also, with this farm, you have the special RNG of when the mobs stop to heal. So there's some mobs called protectors in the Armory run, and what actually happens is if you Nova them along this pathway, or if they get stuck behind trying to heal other mobs, they actually run slower through, and then they stop to heal before you go into block, and maybe they don't get to you for block, so when you come out of block, you actually have those protectors hitting you because they didn't get Nova'd. So that's kind of a unique RNG element to the Armory run, which you're not going to see in Cath or Mara or things like that. And it really adds some complexity because a lot of people kind of get flustered when they have those extra mobs. The important thing to remember when you have those extra mobs is that the protectors aren't going to do much outside of try to heal. They're not going to hit you for a ton of damage. They're not going to obliterate your shield or something like that. So as long as you keep up your mana shield during the kill phase, your only issue is going to be running out of mana and things like that. But you're going to be able to live through them. So don't worry if you have a couple of protectors hitting you. Maybe try to sheep one, but you're going to be good overall in general. Now, as far as the gear requirement, as I said before, there's slightly more mana that you may need. And so I don't worry too much about the overall resist items. If you want, you can swap out to fire resist. Now in Cath, we're going to be running frost resist, 2 frost resist rings, and we're going to be running preferably the Gyro Freeze, Ice Reflector, and the Trinket. But for Armory, it's going to be fire damage spells. And so if you want, you can swap over to fire resist spells, fire resist gear. I personally do not. And so that's something that you can do, and it's probably going to make the resist a little bit easier. But the issue is that you're not going to have as many wizards, and so you're not going to have as many fireballs coming to you in general, and so you're not going to be having as many resists, and then you're going to be getting less overall mana back. You're also probably going to be having some mobs hit you during your kill phase, and you're not going to have up Ice Barrier likely immediately, which means that your mana is going to be getting taken down through a mana shield, as you can see here. So the overall gear requirement, you're definitely going to want to have more mana. The health can be an issue, as we're going to see in just a second if you get some unlucky hits. But the big thing is going to be the mana requirement, and so you could definitely need a lot of mana. Now, if you do get a defender to interrupt you, you could take a lot of damage, as we're about to see. Once I go for the Flame Strike, Cone of Cold into the Cold Snap Nova, I get down pretty low for this kill. And so the other gear requirement could be health, because at the end of the day, you're having a ton of mobs hit you, And if you don't have a ton of mana to be able to cycle through everything like that, then you're going to need to take a couple hits, and you potentially could need that extra health. And so gear requirement is going to come in at a 6 overall, because it is going to be pretty useful to have some good gear during this farm. And actually a lot of people don't struggle with Cath once they get down the pools. They actually struggle with Armory, which I was really surprised of, because when I got started I didn't really have that issue, but what I'm finding is that a lot of people are having that issue. And as you can see here, I nearly die on my mage with 7% health and pretty much no mana, but we end up getting the kill down, so it's all right. And it was all one take. So as far as raw gold per run, we're going to come in at 2 gold and 85 silver per run for the Armory run. Now, this is a little bit less than Cath, just because you have a little bit less mobs. Cath comes in at about 75 to 80 mobs per run, whereas Armory comes in at the mid 50s to low 60s mobs per run. So it makes sense you're going to have a little bit less raw gold. If you're just doing some Armory boosts, you could probably get 4 gold per run, similar to Cath as far as the boosting gold goes. And so it's going to come in right in line with Cath. And so the money from Armory and Cath is pretty similar. Next, we have the potential drops. Potential drops are going to be the exact same as Cath because of the mob level range. And so we're looking at an overall rating of 2. And then the last thing is the boosting per run is going to come in at 4 gold on my server, which means that Cath plus Armory is 8 gold. So if you're just doing one of those runs, you're not making a ton of gold per hour. But if you combine them, you're getting 8 gold per person per run, with the maximum potential of about 40 gold per run. Again, 4 people, not 5. 32 gold per run. And so you could factor that over the hour of getting somewhere around 160 gold per hour that you could potentially be making just from boosting alone. Then you get the extra little bit of gold that you'll be making from the actual looting, coming in at 2 of about 60 silver per run. So you're looking at about 1 gold, 20 silver per full run probably. So you're looking at an additional about 6 gold on top of that. So you're looking at about 166 gold an hour if you're doing 5 runs per hour. Now granted, you could technically only do 4 runs per hour, but you'll be swapping in people and things like that, so it's going to take a little bit of extra time. So you're looking at a pretty good gold return from Cath and Armory. Okay, so in the next instance that we're going to be coming into is going to be Mara. And so Mara is one of the favorite instances of most boosters, just because once you get it down, you're pretty much good to go with it. And so it has a very interesting learning curve. The difficult part of the learning curve is that it is about a 10-ish minute run just to do the kill itself. And so there's a lot of things you need to remember as far as pathing goes, which mobs to pull, how to pull them, when to be leaving certain locations, when to use certain cooldowns, things like that. So it has a difficult aspect of the learning curve from that. But once you get down the actual run itself and that learning curve aspect, there isn't much that goes on after that, and it's pretty much rinse and repeat. And so instead of putting it at a very high learning curve, which it might be right off the bat, I actually rate this at about a medium learning curve, because once you get it down, there's not too much after that you need to worry about. And so it comes in at a 5 on the learning curve scale. The next is going to be the RNG influence. And as I said just a second ago, there's pretty much no RNG. Once you have it down, it's the same run, which might sound boring, but you have a ton of mobs on you, so it's a ton of fun to do anyways. And I've done this probably over 1,000 times by now, and it is a very fun run to do. And so the RNG is going to come in at 1. There's very little RNG that you could actually have, play a factor in you. And sorry, I occasionally swap over to my mage because I'm trying to get him ready for dagger farming, my troll mage. And so the overall RNG, it's pretty much just not there. It's non-existent, which is wonderful for a farm like this. Now, as far as gear requirement goes, there's not a lot of gear that you need either. You're going to need a little bit of health and a little bit of mana to get through the first part. But after that, it's really not bad at all. And I've done both the Cath and Armory and the Mara pools without any gear on. So once you get it down, you don't really need the gear. Learning it, you're going to need a little bit more gear, because maybe you don't have perfect kind of pooling and things like that. Maybe you're getting extra hits. Maybe you're not putting the sprites in the right place, taking some extra hits, things like that. So maybe you need a little bit more gear when you're just learning it off the bat. But the overall gear requirement of this is going to be pretty low. It's going to come in at a 3, because you're going to be getting a ton of mana back from sprites, similar to Armory with getting a ton of mana back from from Cath with getting a ton of mana back from frost bolts and things like that. And so you don't really need to worry about mana. And as far as health goes, you can use a nature protection potion, which is going to basically make it so that you don't take any damage during the kill phase. And so overall, as long as you can live to getting to the kill phase, it's not going to be difficult at all. As long as you properly blizzard and things like that, you shouldn't really take any damage outside of what you're going to be absorbing from your shields. And so the overall gear requirement is pretty low. As far as the raw gold per run, here's where we separate from Cath and Armory a little bit. We're actually getting about 7 gold raw per run. So if we take the combined totals of the Cath and Armory runs, we're looking at about 6 raw gold. Here we're getting about 7 raw gold, which you're going to be splitting between the people. You could do about 4 runs an hour, but as long as you have the same people running the runs or things like that, it's going to be the exact same as Cath and Armory because you are limited to 4 runs per hour regardless. But with Cath and Armory, obviously you can get new people in and you can push the time a little bit because you can do the overall run faster. The potential drops though is where everything just shifts. So the potential drops you have from Mara, I have an entire video comparing SZF and Mara, which has some of the potential drops, but the potential drops out of here are much, much better. You can get Edge Masters, which I got during my 1 to 60 challenge. You can get Underworld Band, which sells on most servers for a pretty good amount. There's a bunch of epics out of here that you can get that are pretty good, and the quantity of mobs that you're killing every single run just with this pool alone is 170, which is going to be more mobs than in Cath and Armory, and so you're having a higher chance of getting those items as well. So the potential drops from Mara comes in at an 8, and I made actually a lot of money off the potential drops. The only downside is that you have to go back to your auction house or something like that pretty frequently to sell because your bags get full. Now the boosting per run is going to come in at 10 gold on my server per run. On the Horde Alliance, sometimes it's up to 15 gold, but on the Horde, we're going to come in at 10 gold per run. So comparing to Cath and Armory, it's 8 gold versus 10 gold, so slightly more boosting gold per hour. If you do 4 runs per hour, that's 40 gold per run. That's 160 gold per hour if you're just doing the 4 runs per hour. So with all this in mind, the overall winner from my standpoint is going to be Maraudon. The biggest thing is going to be the RNG aspect of the Maraudon. And you can, the gold is going to be pretty similar and hopefully you get lucky with some drops. But the biggest thing when you're boosting people is that you do not want to be dying because you want to have a good reputation, 1, of not dying, but 2, you don't want to be giving them free runs or something like that if you're dying all the time and maybe, you're dissatisfied customers. You're going to have good customers who come back if you don't die and if you do consistent runs. With Armory and Cath, you're running the chance of RNG on Novas and things like that, and a lot of people have a lot of difficulty learning that. But with Mara, once you get it down, once you get the run down and everything like that, you're going to be pretty much good to go. There's not going to be RNG. You're going to be running the same path over and over, and you can do, a lot of these farms a day, like 50 of these runs a day if you really wanted to, and just make a ton of gold. The average drops are going to be better too. You're going to have the potential to get Edge Masters, and eventually, in theory, you will get Edge Masters from doing this. Might take a ton of runs like myself, but eventually you could probably get them, or you can get decent drops along the way, even outside of Edge Masters that are going to sell pretty well. And so Mara's going to come in at the overall best boost to get started with. Once you're fresh 60, you do not really need much gear. Go ahead and pick up 2 nature resistance rings off the auction house. If you have the gold for it, get glowing brightwood staff and get some nature protection potions, and you're really going to be good to go from that. If you do want to go ahead and amplify it to the 220 pools and maybe even go higher with some of the more mobs, if you're just solo farming, then you can go ahead and do that as well. And Mara provides a lot of variance that can keep you entertained and also get more experience for your groups and make you kind of stand out. So hopefully this helps you kind of figure it out. Now, if Mara is daunting and if it's taking a long time, definitely take a look at SM Cath and Armory because it's still an amazing farm for you to be doing as a booster just when you're getting started if you can figure that out easier. All right, everyone, that wraps up today's video. I hope you all enjoyed it, and if you did, please subscribe and leave a like and a comment below to let me know so. And if you guys have any other ideas for any other videos, please let me know in the comments below. Also, check out the description for the Twitch where I do all this live, and also for my Twitter and Discord where you guys can be notified of any future updates and when I'm going to go live on stream. So I'll see you guys in the next video.